Greetings everyone and welcome back to the TFT Perspective. So, the Russia-Ukraine war is about to enter its fourth year. But there is a certain issue that has always been kept under the rugs by the Western media, and that's the participation of far-right nationalist militia groups inside Ukraine and Eastern Europe. There is a particular history behind it, especially when it comes to 2014 Euromaidan events. After that, there was a lot of upheaval inside Ukraine and surrounding areas. And the support of such groups and elements, which later turned out to become into proper militant factories, resulted them in achieving such a greater influence in the region that right now a lot of people inside Western Europe as well as in Eastern Europe tend to participate with them in vicious activities and in racial attitude and propagate their own far-right nationalist tendencies across the globe. We have with us Mr. Waqar K. Korvi, and we're going to discuss about the genesis first as why such groups have been thoroughly supported by Western governments, and yet they have been supported, but in the mainstream media they are barely discussed. So, Mr. Waqar, firstly, the use of far-right nationalist militants and their groups, whether politically or militarily, West has been keen in that. Throughout the Russo-Ukrainian conflict, we have seen that. And why do you think is it necessary for the West to do such a thing when Ukraine has its own military and NATO has its own equipment and everything? Why use such militant groups in achieving certain objectives?
I think the rise of far right, especially in the conflicts and wars, is nothing new. Even if you look at World War II, and when basically German forces entered Russian and Ukrainian territory and established their authority. You must have heard about basically Ukraine was then handed over to
it was created into a Reichsmarschall, and it was properly governed by Mr. Stefan Bandera.
And interestingly, Bandera is now being again resonated in Ukraine. So this is, I would say that there is a tendency of far right or neo-Nazi groups. Despite that, Russians have been able to highlight that now, you've been basically talking of anti-Nazism and anti-fascism and anti-Hitler, but here you are very, very selective. And then you come to Middle East, when Daesh was created, and there are unconfirmed reports that, again, it had some to do with hostile agencies from the West who helped it, morph into Daesh, ISIS, and later on now it has, I think, global branches. Again, you must have heard about names like Jihadi John.
Yes.
There were people who were rappers and within 2 years they became Muslim and then they landed up in Syria. And at places they were supporting, movement against Turkey, like Turkish, against Turkey with the Kurds, the militant Kurd groups. So it means that Europe has been basically keeping one eye, closed and letting it happen. And same is probably true with the United States. So it's, I think, very, very important to discuss that why, such, I would say, fascist and right-wing groups who are almost mercenaries. If you look at the laws, they don't allow anybody or ex-military or civilians to join mercenary groups, but here you have open support. So if you look at, Georgian Legion, I think that is one case study that you've also, looked into. It was created somewhere, 2014 in the Donbass region. Of course, we had the Azov battalion, and then this came. It is said that basically this was Georgian volunteers. But it is interesting that if you look at the composition of Georgian Legion, people come from Australia, Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Ireland, Israel, I think some Indians, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Kosovo, Netherlands, you have Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Serbia.
It's a very inclusive organization.
Yeah, it looks like, European Union and, North America combined. Slovakia, Sweden, United Kingdom, and United States. And so it means definitely there is a deliberate effort to downplay, although it has been discussed in the academia. But it's very, very unfortunate when you look at how they sanction any other group, operating in the Middle East or in anywhere else. And when it comes to their own interest, it is very unfortunate that they'll support. And it's also, very interesting that there were some sanctions on some of these groups for their training and military equipment. And it's said that it is not illegal. U.S. citizens can join foreign militaries under certain circumstances as long as they aren't acting as mercenaries or recruited while still in the U.S. So this is Washington Post report. But it's all violation. And now I think recently U.S. has allowed not only training inside U.S., but also supply of weapons.
They just recently lifted the ban on Azov Brigade back in 10th June. So keeping in view that, is there any law in Europe, in UK or in America which restrains them from supplying or training such organizations? Because, for instance, I was reading a news report on The Intercept. They said that for the Azov Brigade and its support, the US military and US Congress passed a resolution of supplying weapons and facilitating and training such individuals. They said that the predecessor of that organization, Azov Brigade's predecessor was Azov Battalion. Since that does no longer exist, so that's the primary reason why we are giving them weapons.
They could coin, I think, any reason. I think there are laws. It's not that there are no laws, because if you look at war effort, and if you look at the Western war effort,
I thought we were already done with Hitler, Mussolini, and these shenanigans.
No, when it comes to, and then again, last time we also discussed the demographic factor is that there is the dearth of human resources. That's why they have to pool up. But we look at NATO, look at the budget. And if you look at individual budgets of United States, United Kingdoms, and France, Germany, and three of them are nuclear powers. So I think they are good enough to basically, look after the security of, their allies and Europe. But unfortunately, when it comes to war against any other country, as I mentioned, what was basically, who was allowing them to, join Daesh or ISIS? So I think there are ways to hoodwink, there are ways to go around the rules and regulations, and look at it as being passed through Capitol Hill.
Yeah, and another important factor that I wanted to discuss was that Russia is already using the narrative that there are Neo Nazis in the Ukrainian government, and West by and large supports that argument in some way as well, because when it comes to any special operation or an important event, we always see Azov Brigade in the mainstream media, that back in the Battle of Mariupol or in any battle of, whether it be Kharkiv front or whether it be the Battle of Bakhmut as well, they have been used thoroughly as special forces. Although they have been inducted in the Ukrainian military as National Guard, why the West keeps on using such elements as a forefront against any opposition, especially Russia? Why not the standard military? Why not, create media perception regarding the Ukraine's own military? Why only use such groups for perception? Although it doesn't go in their favor.
Yeah, I think it's related to, definitely, NATO would not like, have their footprint. Despite that they have provided F-16s and technically, you had the French and British and U.S. armor already, deployed in Ukraine. Of course, it's operated by Ukrainian forces, and Ukraine has the right for defense. Because we look at the Wagner group on the other side, Russia. Again, it has international composition. It looks like volunteer force, and the other side says that they are mercenaries. So I think there is a problem. But why these mercenary groups are employed? Because one, of course, there is an element of alleging a violation of international laws and rules, because they are volunteers. So it's not NATO fighting inside. So one is, of course, they would like Russians to communicate and the STATCOM that our troops are not on ground. Although I think now we have some proof that troops are on ground. So the militias or private military companies or these groups allow them. And maybe there are reports there are regular officers from NATO actually fighting or commanding these units, maybe, and guiding them on. Especially if you look at the high-tech air defense system, the use of HIMARS, the use of drone warfare. I don't think so. Ukraine, which has lost almost 500,000 soldiers and officers in the war so far, I think the front line is already gone.
Yeah.
But how it is being recuperated by NATO. So I think one is that. The other is definitely they would not like hue and cry in the United Nations or that we are directly involved, because then it invokes a lot of things. For instance, if a NATO member go and start fighting, then Russians can always say that NATO is into war and it can expand into northern area. I would also like to highlight what has been written by the intellectuals. This is very important. It's not that's not been pinpointed. Like there was research which was published in the Sage Journal by Christian Conrad. Then we have Alex McKenzie and Sarah Leonard. And the main title is Far Right Foreign Fighters and Ukraine, a Blind Spot for the Europeans. So basically they're trying to highlight it to European Union that they should feel responsible. And there is a detail of not only that how far right groups are basically supporting militancy, but the connection between different like English Defence League, which is defunct, UK's party, Union party, independent party, Italy, France, Germany, the AFD. So they have mentioned that basically there is and then what is their motivation? It's very interesting that they are saying Anders Behring Breivik's manifesto. You remember this guy, who killed a lot of children in Utøya in Norway, and then he was again, his manifesto was picked up by a lot of people because it relates to 2080. That's the time, because technically there will be a demographic shift in Europe and North America. Most probably, it is said that immigrants would actually overtake the whites, and they'll become majority, and whites will become minority. So 2080 is, one, I would say, critical year. And he said that we have to do something to not let it happen. And the way is that you basically start killing the immigrants. So these are the, motivating factor. Same is true for Mr. Brenton Tarrant. If you remember, there was a massacre in Christchurch.
Yes.
In New Zealand. And I think Prime Minister
Jacinda Ardern.
Yeah, she played a very good role. But mainly he said that my motivation was again Mr. Breivik. Just imagine. So this is the kind of far right poison which is spread, which is very, very dangerous. And if you look at London riots,
quite connected with what is unfolding.
So I would say that these are some of the reasons that we have to look into it. So there has been studies. I think they have been presented to them, but somehow they'll keep one eye closed and let it go, because it supports their so-called
even if the one eye is closed, the biggest question arises here is that why is NATO employing its forces or retired officials in such groups which support Stephen Bandera type of people, rather than creating a group which supports liberty or anti-imperialism or such things? Why use these then? If they want to get involved in the war against Russians, then why just operate with a far-right nationalist group?
Because I think it suits them. Definitely, there is a demographic deficiency, and as I mentioned, if you go back into why they were into that, just imagine. And it was, there was a retired Marine, U.S. Marine, and he had love for Islam. He got converted in 2009, and 2010 he was in Aleppo.
Yeah, this is
so this is the kind of, and I think there were thousands of people who basically got into Syrian conflict. Then there were people who went into Libyan conflict, and now it is said, like I think. President Zelensky has already mentioned, I think last year, that 20,000 volunteers have
in the
registered.
International Legion.
So it means, yes, he's created, I think, another organization which is now International Legion for Defense of Ukrainian territory or something like that. So that is, I think, critical. Now we also come to the political side. It's not only that there are splinter groups and far right groups like or far right small parties. Now, if you look at the landscape of Europe, now there are far-right parties which are now ruling. They become majority parties. So we have a list of, these either in government or in coalition. You have basically Switzerland. Just imagine, the Swiss People's Party. Then you have Italy, Brothers of Italy, and Lega, famous, which is now led by Madam. Then you have Hungary,
Yes.
basically Fidesz. Then you have Finland, Finns party, and Sweden you have Swedish Democrats, and Serbia, United Serbia. So these are the parties already ruling. And now we come to where either they are major opposition parties, or now they are on the verge of basically taking over. We start from France National Rally, which was Marine Le Pen's party,
which
came
very close in winning the elections.
And entire, I think, liberal left and center had to, rally to stop
rally
it.
together. Yeah.
Then they also have La France Insomnias. In Germany, you have the AfD alternate for Germany. In Spain is Vox. You have Hellas Hellenic Solutions. Serbia's Oath Keepers, and Riveri. You have Portugal's Giga. Netherlands, famous PPP, Mr. Geert Wilders,
yes,
an open Islamophobe, and most probably he'll be leading, Netherlands very soon.
Very likely.
Forum for Democracy is there. Then in Ukraine, you have Svoboda. Probably. Then Austria's Freedom Party, you have Bulgaria's Revival, you have Flanders, even in Belgium, small little Belgium, you have New Flemish Alliance and Vlaam Belang. In Hungary, you have Jobbik and Our Homeland Movement. In Norway, you have Progressive Party. In Armenia, the Revolutionary Federation.
I guess the only thing left is Vatican City.
I think so. And then even in Wales, you have, basically played Chimru. Cyprus, you have AKEL and Elam. In Denmark, you have People's Party. Ireland and Sinn Féin, basically.
So all of these parties have far-right lineages.
Either they are far-right or they are super nationalist. Then Moldova's SOR, Croatia's Homeland Movement, Luxembourg's Alternate Democratic Reform, UK. They say now it is UK Independence Party. Basically, these are the offshoots of English Defence League or Pegida, or influenced by Pegida in Europe. So this is, and I think it's a long list. Now, these are major parties. If you look at smaller splinter groups, they have. So this is the kind of landscape that now we are facing in Europe. And so that's definitely. But if you look, go on the street, because I've been discussing with European friends in some of the forums, that people are worried because one Russia-Ukraine war has dented, whatever democracy was left. So they feel that the 1% neo-liberal cabal is now ruling and fueling the war, and basically there's hardly any liberty. So I think that's what we have now, the overall landscape. But you will be lectured always.
Definitely.
And just compare in Pakistan. Have any far-right party governed Pakistan?
No.
Since 1940. Maybe the part of coalition in some of the provinces.
Yeah.
But not
as a federal.
Just compare it. What is happening there?
Last question is that the Indian Prime Minister is suddenly arrived in Poland, and about Ukraine or certain issues. Is this content any newsworthy, or what is this when it comes to Mr. Modi in Poland?
Maybe I think he's visiting Poland and followed by into Ukraine. For Poland, definitely they have bilateral relations, but Poland is part of NATO and Ukraine is into war with Russia. And there was alleged allegations against India that they were, basically bending toward Russia, and they have to show something. But I think it is not making any headlines. The only thing is that India has not been able to manage its neighborhood. If you look at let's say, Indian media is projecting this is going to have a mediation role, between Russia and Ukraine.
So they're trying to get rid of the Bangladeshi issue via this.
So they can't solve Bangladesh. They have problem in Maldives, Pakistan, China is already hostile relationship. They are even worried about Bhutan, and
why
of course,
Bhutan?
I don't know. So Nepal, and now Mr. Modi. Let's see what he can achieve. But mainly, it's I think playing to the gallery. He's going to basically show that he also definitely has solidarity with Ukraine. How the Russians are looking at, I think that will be very, very interesting. But I don't think so anything is going to come up. It's mainly a media show.
So that's it for today, folks. Please do leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching our channel. Bye-bye.